4.
Every Metallica album is a microcosm of what was really going on in our lives.
We're certainly not the band that puts an album out every year. We take our time, but we've lived them. I mean, they're life for us.
Everything that goes into an album, it's just like you give it your all.
These albums and these songs, they're a picture in time for me. That was what came out of those collective creative energies and moments of that particular phase in my life, in our lives. This is the center of operations, commonly referred to as HQ.
This room is very creative for us. It's filled with lots of cool stuff that inspire us. Backdrops from 1984, flags from all around the world that have been inspirational for us, that we've seen in the crowd, that have been thrown up on stage, and we get to hang them out in here. Things that inspire us. I think it's really important to, in your, I guess you'd call it a work area, but it's a play area for us, that you have things around that are inspirational to you.
Most of the time when we've been writing albums, it takes from 6 months to a year is the average time. When we write a record, write a collection of songs, an album, we sometimes have, say, 20 songs kind of cooking at the same time. And what will happen is that sometimes pieces from different songs end up in other songs. Singers, songwriters traditionally will maybe work more on one song at a time. But in Metallica, which everything that we've talked about so far is really about the group element, the group entity, the collective, and about how every band member and the audio team brings something to that process. One of the things that we really enjoy and have always strived for is to get albums that are really balanced, these sort of musical experiences, these musical journeys. So you can obviously take, whatever, Master of Puppets starts with a super fast song, then it goes to what we call a kind of a mid-tempo, then it goes to the third song, The Thing That Should Not Be, is a really slow, heavy, kind of pounding, grindy song. Then it goes to the ballad, Sanitarium. Then it goes to Disposable Heroes, which in our world sits kind of in between the mid-tempo and the fast. Then you got Leper Messiah. Then you got Orion, the instrumental. Then you get Damage Incorporated, which again is the super fast, thrashy. So we have these kind of blueprints, not unlike if you're writing a movie, sort of a first act, a second act, a third act. And so our records, we very much like our records to be these sort of paths, these journeys, where obviously you can take all the songs and you can isolate them and hopefully enjoy them on their own, but also there's this very dynamic journey, dynamic experience that unfolds with different moods, different feels, different shading, as we call it, and obviously some of the songs have that journey within the song, and then overall within an album, it's a lot about that journey. So as far as the editing process itself, I'll give you guys an example. In this very room, so this is 2016. We're about 3/4 of the way through the process of creating the album that subsequently became Hardwired. And we were down here and we had a bunch of songs, somewhere, I think around 11. And as we got further into the process, I thought to myself that we didn't really have a definitive album opener. So I brought up to James and to Greg and to everybody that maybe we should try to write specifically a song to open the next album. Maybe make it shorter and really make it kind of a definitive statement on what that whole record represented. The mission statement is write an opening song for this next record.
Yes.
That's super flashy and fast. So over the course of the next couple days, we went through the whole riff piggy bank, and on these computers here, tried 3 to 5 different riffs, ended up on a riff that was called Riff Charge. That was its nickname.
Riff Charge is just boom.
That won over a couple of the other ones. One was something with bats and something else. I don't know. They have silly titles. Anyway, so we're going to write a very short song and definitive. And so James and I put that song together over the next day or two, and we have a pretty clear arrangement. Well, what happened, which sometimes happens because, again, there are no rules. And so even though we had destined that the middle bit was a riff straight into the guitar solo, when James was doing the vocals, he decided to sing over the middle bit. So he sang a super cool vocal over the middle bit, which was way too cool to not have on the song. Well, now what do? We have a vocal where we thought there was supposed to be a guitar solo. That's where the editing machines then come into play. And we sat down and we said, we basically had to rearrange the whole middle part of the song in the Pro Tools and figure out how to keep the great vocal that we call middle 8 part that James had come up with completely impulsively on the spot, and also make room for a guitar solo that Kurt was going to subsequently play. And if you have to do this, my advice would be, first of all, to be patient. Second of all, try to get everybody's input, check the temperature of everybody in the room, listen to your own instincts, follow your faith and trust in yourself, and then just be careful you don't get stuck and that you prevent the progress of the project by getting stuck in these decisions. You know, try to identify the decisions that really, really, really will affect the outcome of your record. Like, say, what key is the song going to be in terms of what the vocals are going to do, rather whether the connector piece between the third bridge and the third chorus is 2 or 4. So try to sort of figure out what the importance of these decisions. But when you're editing and when you're doing that, trust your instinct and jump out into it, and be careful not to get stuck in decisions that may not ultimately affect the bigger picture of your record.
Nice. Demoitis is a real thing. Maybe other artists have talked about it, but gosh, you just fall in love with something because it was magical at that moment. You heard it, you played it, you guys all recorded it. You know, we record pretty much everything we play. When some magic happens, it happens. If we record something, we think it's the best thing. That's what you refer to. It's like you go back to that. You know, is it as good as the demo? And also another thing as a guitar player even, you got this riff, you've played it 1 billion times now, you're playing it different. And the producer will go, by the way, we got to go back. Listen, you're playing it a little different than you were. It's like, thank you. You get to refer to the demo. And if it's not as good as the demo, use the demo. And then but you can always try to better the demo. And then, okay, here's the new master. Go back to that. And yes, you can change your mind. You can choose again. You can go back on what you thought you just were going to, you know, it was life and death situation. It's not. You can go back and say, that's not as good as I thought it was going to be. And a lot of times that happens instantly, you know. And then sometimes it takes a week. You hear it back and you go, wow, not as great as I thought. Yeah. That's okay. I'm gonna eat some of that humble pie right now, and actually it tastes okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Good to
awaken.
That would work.
When I'm doing vocals, it's usually I'll run through the song a few times, get warmed up with it, and we'll do probably 6 takes of a song, and we'll go back on certain parts of the song that I'm kind of having an issue with.
I don't think that's the right one yet.
We'll record more tracks of that. Producer will go in and do a compilation of all the best parts of that, make a comp, and then a week later, I'll come back, or 3 or 4 days later, come back and try and beat that comp, try and make it better than what it was. And sometimes I can, sometimes I can't, but most of the time we can improve, whether it's even just, pitch, it's enunciation, it's impact, it's like the shortness, you're drawing it out too much. It needs to be more percussive. There's so many things that go into the voice as an instrument, and you can mess with them. For me, having a character in your voice is more important than having the range of, 3 octaves or something. Having a character that is you and it's unique to you is pretty important, I would say. You hear a singer and all of a sudden, oh, I know who that is. And it's not even the song that I know, but I know it's that singer, because they have a character and they're not afraid to show it in the song.
I think it's very important to remind yourself you can get high on the process itself. I'm in a room with my best friends creating these songs. The producers, in the other room giving the thumbs up. This is working. We've tried to crack this. You get high on the process. And there's nothing wrong with that. You should get high on the process. If not, then you're not human. But you have to be able to then walk away from it and come back to it with a clear mindset, with fresh ears, hear it in a different environment and go, now is it any good? And what can be better? And I just think that the more you can be self-critical and understand those euphoric energies that come in the wake of when it's really fucking working for you, and then giving yourself the luxury of walking away from it and coming back to it. I think that's a very, very important part of at least our process.
Your song is written, your music is there. How do you get it out to people? In any way and every way possible. On your homepages, on your Instagram, on your whatever, blasting it at a stoplight, rolling your windows down. I mean, putting it on at parties. If you're proud of your music, you're gonna wanna get it out there. And why would you not use any form possible? Don't be afraid of all the new media forms that are out there. There's plenty of opportunities, and if you limit yourself, you might regret it. Learn about what it is, and if you need that knowledge, and of course that is important, learn about where your music's going and why. But yeah, use all media forms you can to get your message out there.
As far as Metallica is concerned, and the business side, we've always prided ourselves and sort of strived for to be as independent as possible in our career. Early on in many people's careers, there are some practical elements, resources, obviously studio time, pressure from outside sources of record companies or managers. There's a tour that's been booked, and we need to have new album, or we need to have new product, as they call it. Draw some lines in the sand very early on, but we've managed to keep most of the business stuff at bay, keep it away from the creative process. And so there is obviously a whole world with responsibilities and dates and resources and all this stuff. But if you can kind of put a barricade or dividing line between that and the creative process and really keep those from each other, then you're very lucky. One day, we got all our records back and started our own record company. Everything that we do, we strive to be independent, autonomous, and not owe anybody anything, because that way they can't come to you and go, that song should have a different chorus, or maybe that song should have a different lyric or a different vocal. Nobody can tell us what to do or how to do it, because we don't owe anybody anything. And it gives us the freedom. We equate that with the freedom to kind of pick our own projects and to sort of just chart our own course. I've been in Metallica since the beginning, the guy that would sort of take care of the practical things. Started off by, I would sit and copy the tapes, write the song titles on the tape. I would put them in envelopes and take it to the post office and send 7 people in 7 different countries a copy of our demo tape, send them a t-shirt. I'll even go as far as to say that I enjoyed that part of it. I like communicating, and I like talking to people, and I like problem solving, and I like to figure shit out, and I like to make shit happen. And so I think there were times along Metallica's career where it's like, it's not cool to talk about this stuff. But listen, I've done this for almost 40 years, and I would be lying to you if you said that it's a part of being in Metallica and being in a band that I don't enjoy. And I think it's important to always have your motives clear and be upfront with yourself and your partners. But I would like to suggest that having a record contract, having an outlet for your music, selling your t-shirts, making t-shirts available, making merchandise, patches, gadgets, whatever, communicating with your audience, making yourself transparent, social media nowadays, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of it's part of a way to engage with your surroundings. You're not selling out by doing that. You're engaging your fans, you're engaging your audience, and you're communicating and having what I would call a conversation. And so if you want to sell a t-shirt, you want to sell it at cost, sell it at cost. If you want to make a couple dollars to pay for food, to pay for guitar strings, to pay for drumsticks, to pay for gear, it costs money. Everything associated with being in a rock and roll band ultimately costs money. If you have a team around you, you've got to pay them their wages. Obviously, at some point, if you want to pay rent for a rehearsal place, you've got to book studio time. All of it costs money. So you can't live in a world of pretending that none of that exists. So obviously, over the last few decades, there are certain movements and certain times where it's not cool to think about the business. It's not cool. Ooh, you're selling out. Ooh, oh, you're corporate. Oh, all this stuff. And there are many different ways to go about this, but you could argue, if you're really going to go down that path, that being in a band to begin with is kind of selling out. So I would encourage you to just end that conversation and just figure out what works for you.
So when we first came out on a come out tour, we found a small t-shirt producer and we made t-shirts ourselves. We had like 2 or 3 shirts. They sold well. Metallica, the Young Metal Attack. And then when we were able to sign to a major record label, we signed also to a bigger merchandising company. And that's when we learned that you can use this merchandise advance to finance other things. You know, that was just such a huge thing for us. Back then, a lot of times the only time you can get merchandising for a certain band is if you went to go see them and you went to the merchandising table and there it was. But it was amazing because it was a way to generate some sort of income. And when people wore the shirts out and about, it was a great way for us to gain exposure on the street level. Nowadays, merchandising is like everywhere. I mean, you don't even have to just sell it uniquely on tour. You can sell it online. You can sell it at stores, whatever. You have access to an entire worldwide market that you can sell your merchandise through, and you have an entire industry that does nothing but band merchandise. You know, anything from T-shirts to little figures to the coffins. You know, it's amazing. The world of merchandise is vast and wide. You can underwrite a tour. You can sustain a tour. And there's a lot of bands out there these days who will take a merchandise advance, and they'll take that advance and they'll use that to finance their tour. And so it can be a great revenue stream if you're wise about it and you have something that's, you know, interesting to offer, you know. But it all starts with the music. If you have great music, you're gonna sell a lot of merchandise. If you have crap music, guess what? Not gonna happen.
A significant piece of working in a group environment is the word trust. Trusting the people around you and knowing that, you know, out of that collaborative energy will come something greater than if it was an individual effort. You have to have that as the MO at any time. And that's why I respect, obviously, lots of great artists started in collaborative environments and then went off and did their own thing. But we've chosen over 40 years to stay in a collaborative environment because it works for us and it works for, obviously, for what we're doing and how it connects, I think, most importantly to each other and to the music, but also to the people that want to come and be a part of it.
One of the things that I find so special about being in this band with these musicians is, you know, you're trying to find the magic in that song, and it's always going to be somebody who says it's not good enough. So your team is always trying to do the best that's possible for the song and to find the remedy, because you will hit roadblocks. You know, I always want to stress that to our students, that you will be challenged in your journey to find the right parts to a song or that magic sort of moment. It takes time sometimes. Sometimes it just comes naturally. Sometimes it doesn't, you know, but always kind of have faith in yourself to keep trying and pulling from different, you know, whatever is going to influence you or give you the energy and that spark to hopefully ignite that next idea. You just do the best you can. Never phone it in. And that's one of the great things about this band is we don't phone it in. We really, really strive to make it the best that it can be.
If you put enough work into something, you will get it back. Music, it's not easy, you know? It's not easy. You have to want to do it, and you have to have the passion to do it and the will to do it. And you have to just know that you will find the notes, and it happens. Be open to any sort of solution that comes down the road, and you might discover something really, really important in the pursuit of something else.
What is a risk? Something that you're not comfortable with at first. It's the, allowance of other things to come at you and see those gifts that show up in your life. And do you embrace them, or are you afraid of them? If you try to think your way into another place, it's not going to work. It just doesn't happen. You got to feel it. Michael Kamen, who's a conductor, comes to us and says, "Hey, I want to do a symphonic Metallica thing." And at first it's like, "What? No way. We can't do that." And then you let it absorb, and then you think, "Okay, let's lean into the uncomfortable here. How do we make it Metallica? How do we make it, how is this going to enhance our art?" Or like Lou Reed coming to us and saying, "I want to work with you guys." It's like, what? That is so not on my list of things to do in life. But it's been put there for a reason. Let's at least entertain the thought and see what it feels like for us.
I offer them to you as servants of the gold that you must give to me.
I grew up around all these very different kinds of music. James grew up around different music. Rob grew up. Kirk, everybody grew up. We have very, very vast musical backgrounds. We've been channeling that in various ways, and we're, like James is saying, always open to crazy things when they come. It's not necessarily that we're out hunting all the time. Who can we collaborate with it now? But when given a choice to lift up the carpet and see what's there, to open these doors and see what's behind door 1, 2, and 3, that's always fun to do.
It's always a real kind of like drive to see what's just around the corner creatively for us musically. What can we do? What can we find that's just right there that we can use and expand on for a different way to express ourselves musically? And, the more we do this, the more we find out different ways to expand our sound. Still doing it to this day. We all individually go and listen to our own types of music, that really, inspire us. And it could be anything. I mean, I listen to bossa nova and classical music and British blues from the early 60s. But man, I get so inspired to write the heaviest riffs when I listen to that stuff. And it's flavored with like maybe bossa nova or whatever, but only I know that. My brains, these guys are like, well, it's totally different. We love it. Let's put it in a song. I mean, it's always finding different avenues to just like bust down the boundaries, bust them down. And, we're always forward looking. What else can we do? We like to chase that creative dragon. I hate to say it, man, but it's the most exciting thing when you're a musician, and you're with 3 other guys who think the same way. It's a great journey, man. It's a great, great journey. We've put out albums and people have said, but you know what? To me, still, to this day, because it's it's culmination of artistic ideas and means so much to us. And to be able to do that and see it through successfully is a great gift.